Welcome to the Empowering Industry Podcast, a production from Empowering Pumps and Equipment as the voice of the pump and related equipment industry. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 105 of the Empowering Industry Podcast. This is coming out February 7th. This is Empowering Industry Podcast. So I said that already. I'm your host, Charli K. Matthews. I'm joined by my co-host, Bethany Womack.
Charli, every time I see you I hear you introduce the podcast and we're on episode 100 something, I'm like, how did that happen?
I know.
And it makes me so excited.
I know. I don't know whether to say 105 or 105 because when I say 105, I'm like, what? How did we do this? This is amazing.
Great problems to have on our end. And we couldn't have done it without all of you that are listening to this podcast. So thank you for choosing us every Monday like you do. Do us a favor, leave a rating and review wherever you're listening to it. And this week, we are going to do what we always do. We're going to talk about social media. We're going to preview the news from Empowering Pumps and Equipment. And then we're going to bring you an industry influencer that you need to hear from. But Charli, this is your birthday week, the start of your birthday month that we are going to keep the celebration going. How was it? I hope you had some fun.
I did, and I felt all the love. I had so much love. I have to thank, LinkedIn again. I always try to do this because they tell everybody it's my birthday. So I have lots of messages to keep, catch up on, and I'm really thankful. I do appreciate the people that take the time because I get that too, where it notifies you, and it takes I'll tell Charli happy birthday. So thank you for doing that. I will try to get back to everyone. If I like it, that means I really do like it. But I did. I felt all the love. It was wonderful. But there was a lot of other things going on this week too. We met with the Empowering Women Local Steering Committee. We got to go and set up. I actually planned that for my birthday because I thought this is something I really want to get together with my ladies.
I was actually really sad that I wasn't there when I saw the pictures of go check out her Instagram. They set up like a display in the local library all about empowering women locally and the things I've done. And I saw these pictures. I had the FOMO, people. I saw it and I was like, this looks so fun.
Well, you were there definitely because all the creations that you made and, all the little pieces. We set up the books that we've had in the past, our little diamond, it was just combining everything into a display, which was really fun. So we were thinking about you the whole time, Bethany. Also, there was a, local chamber event that I got to go and celebrate. If you've seen any of our promotions, you've seen these ladies that were on the stage getting recognized for Member of the Year. Also, they were Chamber of the Year led by Elizabeth Winter, who is just phenomenal and empowering. So I had a very empowering week, and it definitely was around empowering women. Also, right now, we're wearing red. Bethany is wearing red.
And I had to dig deep to find something red in my closet, but this is it. Go watch the YouTube video. Appreciate this.
Yes. And it's Go Red for Women Day. We're focusing on women's health, partly because I had to figure out so much about myself and my journey to become healthy and feel like I know what's going on, that I learned so much and I want to give that back. So you'll see a lot of that in the month of February, kicking off February 4th is when this is, Go Red for Women. And I think we have all the branding that we need, from past things from the Charli brand of red. But I sported my scar and my red dress
so
from Bethany with pockets. Yeah.
Well, and just to kind of give all our listeners some facts to leave the day with about this Go Red for Women Day. It's to raise awareness for cardiovascular disease in women. 1 in 5 women, that is the cause of their death, is something related to a cardiovascular disease. 1 in 16 women over the age of 20 has a form of cardiovascular disease. That's an incredibly high number. We know Charli, an open heart surgery survivor, sitting right here on the podcast, and fighter. And, you just think about all the people in your life. My mom recently has been having some heart issues, and I'm so thankful for the doctors. And pay attention to your health, be an advocate for your own health and for the women in your life, and tell them to go get checked out, and put on some red this month and tell people why you're doing it, I think is important.
It's so important. And, you point out this is, Mine was a birth defect. It was something that I was born with. It doesn't mean that you're not living healthy
Yeah.
when you go and get checked out. So take care of yourself. Could be any of us. We need to pay attention to it. Okay, Bethany, I saw some really cool stuff that you did this week. So tell everybody, how
Yes.
was your week?
Bringing us back. This week was the start of the new lunar year as the year of the tiger. I went and celebrated with some friends, had some really good Chinese food. I always find the celebration really fun, and we have a large Asian culture and population here in Houston, and a lot of friends who are so nice and kind to share their culture with me and teach me all these things. So I had tons of fun. And then also it's the start of another winter storm here in Texas. So everyone's into some warm vibes. It's much shorter, I think, than last year. But we're all, just waiting outside to not drive anywhere and unstocking all of the grocery stores because insert all
We
your
don't know what to
jokes
do.
about Houston people right now who don't know how to thrive in the cold. But that's been my week, I guess.
And she always prepares me. If this happens in Texas and it's, coming to Alabama, so it's freezing here too, don't know what to do. And I also just wanted to shout out Cindy Smith that, works on our events team.
Yeah.
She also celebrated the Lunar New Year with her children. I love seeing that. So just y'all are in the same world that week.
She was what I was like, oh, yes, I definitely need some Chinese food. I saw Cindy's post. I'm like, okay, got to get some dumplings. Okay, so some fun announcements to start the show off with. We had a new Lunch and Learn come out with Vince this week. Check it out on our YouTube channel. Those are great, just kind of short little videos that you can watch during your lunch hour and learn something. This latest one was with Scale Watcher, and they talk about the removal of scale buildup in water infrastructure. And it's a really informative topic that I think you'll really like the video. And then also, there's still time to sign up for our Sustainability Summit, which is going to be next Monday live, happening on February 14th, which I highly encourage that you participate live. But then there's also an on-demand option if you miss it.
I was doing a heart because it's Valentine's Day, and
yes.
Have to just remind you, in case you have a special Valentine in your life that's coming up.
You got a week.
Also, I love the tie-in.
Yeah,
I like the tie-in of water infrastructure and sustainability. Those go hand in hand. So, okay, I think it's time, Bethany.
Yep, let's get social. This is where we're going to fill you in on something you need to know that's going on in social media.
Oh, yeah, I'm supposed to start that. Thanks, everybody. We are doing the Manufacturing Monday. So if you haven't checked out that hashtag, do that. Hashtag Manufacturing Monday. And this week, we're going to start with Applied Flow Technology, AFT, which is what we call them. It makes it easier, right? They're a leader in pipe flow modeling market. So AFT software is used to analyze, model, stimulate piping and ducting systems. If you haven't seen this stuff, it's super cool, so check it out. They use powerful solutions and user-friendly interfaces to help industries around the world design safer and more efficient systems and solving, the operation problems that they may have. AFT's products are developed by engineers with extensive experience in design and construction of piping systems and the development of analytical modeling methods. So we love them. We've seen them at different events. They're a great partner in sharing lots of different things like webinars. So go check out Applied Flow Technology and, of course, the hashtag Manufacturing Monday.
I love it. Another way that you can get involved and stay social with the industry is to join us on our virtual meetups this month. So you're listening to this when it comes out on Monday the 7th. Your next chance is this Wednesday, February 9th. It's our Empowering Women call. It's every second Wednesday of the month at 11 a.m. Central Time. And this month is the kickoff of our book club that we're having with the author, Gail Rudolph, about her book, Power Up, Power Down.
I think it's so important. I mean, I wish I had this 2 years ago for sure. I've learned so much about, what does power even mean? So I think it's going to be great to discuss.
And we've mentioned it. Gail's been at all of our Empowering Women events. And what I love about Gail is she walks into a room and she commands attention. She's just confident and there to share her information with you, and always leaves me feeling more confident in my ability to do that as well. And so I'm really excited to hear the author of this book that we're talking about explain it even further to us. You don't get that opportunity a whole lot. So I think it is a great opportunity. We'd love to talk to all of you on that call. And then on the next Tuesday, so February 15th is our Empowering Brands Meetup, and it's every second Tuesday at 10 a.m. You need to pre-register for those. The link's in the show notes, and we'll email you the Zoom link once you register.
Yeah, and I just want to mention one more thing about that. It is networking, right? So you're networking with the industry, and I think it's super helpful, these people that get together and share. So I just wanted to put that out there. It is a lot of networking opportunity there. On that note, networking, make sure that you give us a shout out at Empowering Pumps or using the hashtag Empowering Industry Podcast. I've loved looking up and researching like who interacts with that hashtag. It's wonderful.
Okay, so I wanted to start with a shout out that I thought was really important today. As you all know, February is Black History Month, and I wanted to highlight Re-Engineer Magazine and Shadrach and all of the amazing work he's doing there. They are the voice of diversity in STEM. They are sharing great content for Black History Month. Each day, they're highlighting a historical Black professional in STEM. For example, the first day of February, the feature was for the late Dr. Patricia Bath. And she was famous for her work as an African-American ophthalmologist. She invented the laser phaco probe for cataract treatment in 1986. And I did a little research. It's still what is used today for cataracts. My mother-in-law just had cataract surgery about a month ago. So thank you, Dr. Patricia Bath, for your leading work in that area. I think it's amazing. You know, I think Black History Month is there to highlight people that we didn't learn about in traditional education. And I am very appreciative to Shadrach and his team for sharing what they're doing in STEM so I can learn and be educated and share with the people around me. So
absolutely.
Thank you.
And I absolutely love everything that Shadrach is putting together. Yeah. This is just another way that he is really raising the bar and educating us. And, you know, I love the stories too. I mean, we've learned so much. It reminds me of Shannon Bumgarner's highlighted series that she did last year, just a constant promotion of what we don't know. So go and check those out. I want to give a shout out to the Fluid Sealing Association. We had them on the podcast, which was kind of a combo effort with our Knowledge Shared series, and they have been sharing. They've even made some additional resources to highlight the podcast, and just want to thank them. Ron Fassard, I know this is you leading this. You're such a great fan of the podcast, and just the industry needs to understand that they are these experts, technical experts that they can lean on if they don't know what to do with PFAS, and that's something that they've got to figure out. Lean on this resource, and I hope you will give a shout out to the Fluid Sealing Association when you can.
And maybe everyone is not as anxious of a person as I am in general, but listening to that interview and having them explain PFAS and why some of them are not all PFAS is the same. Not everything is causing this big black hole that's going to happen to us that we don't know about. Gave me a lot of calm and allowed me to speak about it to my family and other people that with some authority, because I learned from their interview. And so that just makes me really happy that our podcast is able to bring that to people. And thank you, Fluid Sealing Association, for sharing it with even more people. It's wonderful.
I love it. Bethany loves learning. If y'all haven't noticed that, she really does. So anyway, okay, side note.
Okay, so our big social topic that we're going to be talking about this month is all about personal branding. And we're going to kick off the month with an article that Charli just wrote and shared with and posted on our Empowering Brands website titled, "Why Personal Branding is So Important to Leadership." Now, Charli, I know you've been doing a ton of work on leadership. You've honed your personal brand. You have a lot to share, but why don't you just explain why you wrote this, what you were hoping people would get out of it?
Yeah, I think that, when I think about leadership and how someone is going to lead their team or influence on a particular topic, whatever they stand for, you also have to really be able to put yourself out there. And that's where the personal branding ties in. And so you got to know what you stand for, but how are you going to do that? And I think I've always been like this from when we first started, social media. What is it? You've got to have your profile set up. You have to have your image, who your character is, who you want to be. And so I just wanted let people know that that is important. It is important to understand who you are. And that's what a real leader is anyway. There's a lot of internal work that goes on, even though we try to, become leaders to help our teams. It is really a lot about leading ourselves. So
It could be both.
On that note, yeah, absolutely. In order to do that, I think, the first, I guess, topic or a highlight that I want to talk about is that it allows you to be authentic, right? And once you figure out what your leadership style is, then you can stay in that. It shows you that you're committed to the work. And so understanding your values helps you stay on that. And I think it defines your leadership style, being authentic, your authentic self. We want to be, leaders. We want to have mentors and role models out there in our area of expertise, right? And you can't do that. You can't lead. You can't be a mentor if you don't know who you are and you don't show up as that person. So understanding your personal brand, which I've told this on the podcast before, Bethany really helped me see that I was a role model, or wanted even to be a role model for women. I hadn't even thought about women and how, because that's what I am and that's what I do. And I just go with it. But I didn't ever see that I needed to focus on that with my personal brand. And anyway, I always have to thank you for that.
Well, and I think this what you're talking about here, like being authentic, you can tell a difference when someone doesn't really understand what their mission is or what they want, and that's okay. Sometimes it takes a while to get to that place, but I think once you finally get to that place where you can be authentic and you do understand yourself, it takes your personal brand to a new level because people can just connect with you better when they understand who you are.
That's right. And you show up differently. So we're talking about your personal brand that's on social media. You're in person. You're on the podcast. Like, I remember not wanting to do video because I felt like that was super stressful. Like, people are really going to see me for who I am every day. Are we going to do that? And so sometimes you're not having the best day, and that's okay, right? Being real and understanding what your mission is. What are your values? What are the things that you're trying to communicate? So personal branding, be authentic in that. And so do a little discovery work, figure out what that is, and then be true to that every day. And I think we can be proud of that, especially if we know, okay, this is why we're doing this. And then you can show up and you can, the reason why we're here, whether I got curls in my hair or it's straight, it's for you. It's for you so that we can help educate you, help tell you kind of what's going on in the industry, and then introduce you with some amazing people, like Bethany said earlier. Okay, I've gone on a tangent, Bethany.
Well, before we get back on track, let me just add on to that and say, you care, you in the royal sense, me about me and you about you and our listeners about themselves, care a whole lot more about yourself and think about yourself and what people think about you than they do. No one notices that my hair is a little frizzy or that I haven't dyed my hair or whatever. You just have to get over that insecurity and show up on a consistent basis and realize people are going to care about the content of what you're saying. And you just got to get out of your head. It is what it is sometimes.
Yeah. So your personal brand is not all about your looks.
Yes.
It's about what you stand for. And so your authentic, genuine values and mission.
Yes.
So hopefully we've gotten that across for you.
Don't pull this clip next week when we're talking all about images and personal branding.
Right.
I'm just kidding. Okay. But on to the next point. You really have to craft your personal brand towards leadership. And how you can do this is starting by conducting a quick informal poll of a few colleagues, coworkers, even clients that you know and trust, maybe even family and friends that you know and trust who know you well. And, ask for a description of yourself in just a few words. And I actually have not done this for myself.
I have done this.
So maybe I should take your advice. I can imagine it's scary in the moment to give people free reign to answer this.
Yeah. And most people that you're going to ask, hopefully, are these positive people in your life, the critics that matter, not the...
Or we'll give constructive criticism if it's something negative. But then you look at all that and you kind of start to see maybe there's a pattern that emerges. Maybe something about you makes people feel this certain way. And then you kind of think, are there themes or are all the things all different? And maybe I need to do some more work honing in on what's important to me. And that brings you to how it's important for your personal brand to meet or exceed your ultimate goal. So when you're thinking about your personal brand within the industry, What's your goal? Is it to tell the water infrastructure story? Is it to get people to stop flushing wipes? Is it to become a thought leader? Is it to sell more of your products that you work for this company? But kind of think through what your goals are and how you can and make those two things meet, I guess. What
That's
people
right.
think about you and your goals.
Yeah. And I can remember the list. I wrote it down, like, of all these people saying these things. And I'm like, that's great and all, happy, smiley, energetic, whatever. But like, I want, strategic, like, great communicator, all these things that you want to get better at too. You'll be able to see, okay, what do you stand for? What do you want your legacy to be? And so that moves me on to, let's put you front and center. And I like to think about this and really I make myself do these things so that you can do them. I try them out. And so one example of this is the little short video we have on our YouTube channel of me introducing kind of what we do. And I had to make it a little fun. It was one of my favorite videos I've ever done because in the moment I knew what I wanted. I wanted to be like, hey y'all, look at all the stuff we have on this YouTube channel. And, this is me. This is silly Charli jumping off the screen, And so I bring my personality, but also then, point to the people that are important to what we're doing. And that's all of the thought leaders out there. Telling your audience about you is important, right? Who you are, what you do, what you stand for, and, making little video clips. Do the recording that you can edit, or the recording, you can do it like 5 times. Nobody knows how many times that you're doing it, and just pick, which one looks and feels like what you want to say. I'm dedicated, right? So Charli example that Bethany's given me here. I'm the CEO of Empowering
You wrote
Brands.
it yourself in the article.
Yeah.
So you've done this example. I'm just helping you out here.
Yes. She's reminding me of who I am.
Yes.
So I'm the CEO of Empowering Brands. And I like to say that I empower people and businesses. I'm dedicated to social media marketing beyond, just for industrial clients, but of all sorts. And I stand out because I have, over 10 years experience in this arena, but also like I am passionate about it. I want people to participate. And so the little tidbit or two on something about how I help clients is, I help them find their voice. I help them understand what their voice should say to be online with their brand, right? So you can talk through that, you can strategize with that. And then I have a unique gift of being able to see the positive and value in people. So developing people, I can kind of see that before they do and kind of push it back to them. So that's Charli's little short clip or a longer clip.
From that, go and make your own 1 to 2 minute video. Say who you are and what you want to do and what makes you stand out. And you don't have to send it to anyone if you don't want. Just record it, get it out there, see how it makes you feel. Share it with your social audience. Send it to Charli or me. We'd love to just watch it. We're passionate about personal.
I was going to say, write it down too. If you're, if you're at the stage where I was, where video makes you nervous, you should do it over and over again, because then you're not nervous after that. But write it down. Like I go back and I look at that list all the time of what people think about me versus what I want this to be. So
yeah. Okay, so last we have a few mistakes, like tips on how to avoid these certain mistakes. So odds are you work for a company or for a brand. It could be a big company or a small brand. And you want to make sure that your personal brand isn't in conflict with your employer's social media policy. So a lot of bigger companies will have policies in place about what you can or can't say on social media. And even if they don't, you want to make sure that like you're not putting a view that's opposite of something that your company is trying to say. So what you do is you find out what you have in common with your organization, what you stand for that might align with something that they stand for, and then figure out a way to talk about that on your social media. And then also, if there's something that you like on your chosen brand, like if you want to call yourself Charli, the rock star, or whatever, like you've built this personal brand, do a little research, see if anyone else out there is using it or using a hashtag and has claimed it, to make sure that you can use it without there being confusion on who you might be if people go and look for it.
That reminds me of someone that I just met on the maintenance community. It's Jake the technician. So I need to go check it out and see if he has any social
Yeah.
handles around that. If not, he should probably create some. So if you're
I
Jake
think
and
of Mel
it's
the
not you,
engineer all the
yes,
time. Yeah.
yes. Yeah. So, okay. Well, finally, I hope that you will take a look at your personal branding and make sure that you're being authentic. It lines up with your core values and where you're wanting to take either your thought leadership for yourself or for your company to the next level. And we can absolutely help. I'd love for you to send me that if it's something that you're working on. That's my wheelhouse. I love it. So, yeah, I think to start, we're going to do a series on this
Mhm.
month. So to start, I think that's a good starting point. Just where are you? What do you want your personal brand to be?
Perfect. Okay, now it's time to move into the news. This is where we're going to preview the news that's coming to you in the Empowering Pumps and Equipment newsletter this week. That comes to your inbox twice a week, every week. And we have great stories that we want to share with you from those.
Yes, and our industry person of the week, which we like to share every week here on the podcast, this week is Taylor Allen. Taylor is a rotating equipment performance engineer with SKF. SKF, you are cranking out some amazing engineers over there. I'm
Yeah.
just a fan. So this in particular one, I haven't met you yet, Taylor, but I look forward to doing so.
Yes, she's wonderful. And we would highly, one of the things I loved about like what she was sharing was that um, she advice she had is to just try and learn something from everyone that you come in contact with, because in her position she gets to meet a lot of different people and really can learn a lot and get a lot of practical knowledge from all the people that she meets, which I think is a great piece of advice for everyone in this industry. And we really want to highlight even more people for our industry person of the week. So definitely nominate someone. It's so simple. You just put their name and their email, and we reach out to them and let them know that they've been nominated and ask them to answer a few questions. And it's just a great way to share your story and what you're passionate about in the industry and
Yeah, and
build your
I'll just
personal brand. Just
That's
saying.
right. That's right. And your network. She mentions building a strong and diverse network, and I think that that's really important. And I think that nominating, the person of the week, it allows us to go out and say and learn from people, that don't look like us. And so I think that you should do that. And even if you're like that person's cool. Let me see. Would you like to be nominated for the industry person of the week? Like, just start a conversation. I'm allowing you to like take this and make it your own. This is what I would do if I met a cool person. So I challenge you to do that and just reach out. I think I'd like to understand your job more.
Love
That's
it.
an easy way to do. Okay.
Okay, you have the first story this week, Charlie, for the news. So share with me what you got.
Okay, so Wanner is talking about reducing energy usage up to 50% for industrial sectors. To mark a new year, Wanner has announced that it can reduce the total energy usage by up to half for some industries that rely heavily on pumps and their processes. What it's doing is examining every pump it manufactures, helping customers reduce energy usage by careful placement with the hydrocell pumps by squeezing carbon out of the system. That sounds amazing. I want to learn more
Right?
about that. And choosing the right pump technology that can have an effect on energy usage is so important, considering that some industries in which Wanner operates, like oil and gas and energy, are shifting heavily into renewables. We've seen that. We want to talk about that. We want to learn how to do that better. And so the flexibility that hydrocell pumps use to handle many different liquids, coupled with this high energy efficiency and reliability, has a role to play in reducing the carbon footprint. I didn't see that coming. I got to be honest. I'm reading this along and we're talking oil and gas. And then we just all of a sudden swap over to this very sustainable practice that I want to know more about. So thank you, Wanner, for sharing this. And I love all these solutions coming our way.
Yeah. And so both of the articles today feed into sustainability, which we want to talk about this month, especially with the Sustainability Summit coming up. And it's an honor to highlight these partners that are doing the work and making meaningful change to the industry, which brings me to my story, which comes to us from our partner Armstrong. And it's titled Armstrong Helps Customers Reduce Energy Use by Over 2.5 billion kilowatt hours, avoiding 2 million tons of greenhouse gas emissions. So in 2018, Armstrong announced this bold initiative to reduce greenhouse gas emissions among its global customer base by 2 million tons, the targeting completion of by the year 2022. And then just last week at AHR, they announced that they had reached and surpassed that goal. So
wow. Yeah. Where's my confetti today? This is
right?
amazing.
I hope there was a party at AHR when they made this announcement. We'll ask Becca if she was there to celebrate with them. But in the process, they've helped customers save 2.5 billion kilowatts of electricity usage, which resulted in more than $300 million in cost savings. It was the equivalent. I'm just throwing numbers at you because these numbers, it's so big, like it's hard to wrap your brain around. It's
That's
the
right.
equivalent of taking 600,000 cars off the road for a year.
Wow.
Or offsetting the average annual CO2 emissions generated by 100,000 people. And they did this by helping their partners and their customers extract carbon from every stage of the life cycle of a building. So you can design a much smaller plant with lower construction carbon footprint and dramatically reduce your carbon emission from operations. All this while using predictive maintenance to help preserve the building's function without adding any cost. So and then they ended the article. There's a great quote from them that just says, it isn't done. The work isn't finished. We're committed to continuing and making a bigger difference. And thank you, Armstrong Fluid Technology, for highlighting this achievement that you've done and just pushing forward.
Yeah, I love it. I love anything that Armstrong's doing there at AHR. I missed personally being there, but I followed along because Becca did a great job capturing all of that on video. So you'll see some more of that coming out. But wow, I mean, it just reminds me of during the pandemic where the boats weren't going in Milan or in Venice, and the water cleared up, like just by tweaking some things in our building and design. It's just wonderful.
Okay. Also wonderful today. We have a great industry interview for you. Charli interviews Hyon Rah all about what keeps her up at night. Let's just say that. I love this interview. Please introduce her.
Yes, and she is a sustainability and resilience strategist with over a decade of experience developing, strategies for this future proof of our built environment. She helps businesses and policy leaders in commercial real estate, energy, water management through system-based and context-specific sustainability, environmental, social, governance, ESG for you that I like these acronyms that we've been using today. You've got to understand that, which we will talk about at our sustainability summit. But she has lived in 7 countries and has worked over 20 years navigating different cultures, disciplinary, regulatory landscapes in 5 languages. She is a very unique human being that has a passion for sustainability and everything that we can do. And I loved the interview. So,
yeah, ditto. Okay, so without further delay, here's your interview.
Welcome to the Empowering Industry Podcast. Hyon?
Yes, perfect.
But if you will start now and introduce yourself and kind of tell us who you are and what you do.
Sure. Okay. So first, I'd like to thank you for having me on the podcast. My first time being on a podcast. And I really appreciate the work that you do to support women in water and engineering. And I'm really excited to be here. My name is Hyon Rah, and I'm a sustainability and resilience strategist. I have a blended background in the built and natural environment, in architecture, renewable energy, and water management, to be specific. And what I do is to advise and collaborate with technical experts, community members and stakeholders, and business and policy leaders so that we can develop and implement built environment strategies that not only address immediate needs of the stakeholders, usually focus on financial returns, but also factors that affect them and their assets throughout the building or facility's life cycle. So that has impact on the local community members, for example, and the economy, and also preparedness to cope with potential risks, disasters, for example, such as floods and heat waves that we've been seeing a lot of. So a building or a campus or facility like a solar farm is going to be around for a long time once it's built, 20, 30, even 50 years longer for buildings, right? And it's a big investment of resources and time. So to maximize your investment, it's really important to understand its potential impact on the host community from economic, social, and environmental angles. So that's what I help do, and to formulate different strategies that are specific to the location, so that, especially with the extreme and really more frequent disasters that we've been seeing, we could build structures that can stand the test of time and to withstand potential disasters, resource shortages, including water, which is a big problem, and demographic shifts as well. So a lot of my work basically is understanding the different factors that are at play, making the connections and communicating with them, with the people that have a stake in the issue in a way that they can get on board with the plan.
There's so much there. There's so much that I want to dive into. And, I we met just kind of through the internet, through
Yes,
this
we did.
mutual love of empowerment and sustainability. And, you're an engineer, you're an entrepreneur, and you care about water. And so I want to hear a little bit more about how you got into the industry and your entrepreneur journey.
So the short answer to the question is that it's been a meandering path, but I think it's been strangely helpful, everything that I've done when I think back to it. Um, I guess the beginning of it is, it always starts when you're young. Alarming number of engineers, teachers, and academics make up my family. So I think that was a big influence. Teaching, actually, although I do teach and I enjoy it very much now, when I was younger, it didn't really appeal to me. But I did dream about becoming an engineer or actually an artist. But going to an art school was a non-starter completely in my family. And I took calculus in high school and realized that I didn't actually enjoy math that much after all. So architecture seemed like a good compromise. And I was also excited about the social and community aspect that go into architecture. You build a building and then I think about the occupants' comfort and how they might feel in the space. And that really appealed to me. So my first job out of college was at an architecture and planning firm. I designed luxury hotels and residential communities. And that really opened my eyes to sort of the business side of architecture, which I wasn't exposed to at all at school, and the construction as well, and just the level of impact that your built project can have on the local economy and the environment. And you don't really have the luxury of choosing where you design and build your project when you're a designer. And so my goal at that time was to make the most positive impact possible with the conditions that I was given. LEED standard, leadership in energy and environmental design, was in its early stages at the time. And that's something that I really kind of grab onto. I got accredited, and I helped other people get accredited and made a platform to share knowledge and all these things. And over time, it really sank in that certain things that I wanted to see improved, for example, community engagement, what the built environment actually did to its context, there were sort of off limits for designers, because I wasn't involved in those level of decisions, including investment decisions. So I reflected back and decided that I need to chart a little bit of a different path. Um, but mind you, at the time, all I knew was design and engineering a little bit through my the collaborations that I had. And I also worked on an awful lot of waterfront projects or in places where water and energy supply was an issue. And I really wanted to understand that better. So that, and I had this option to study water management without getting in debt in Europe. So I went over there and I focused on learning how to basically quantify water related spatial design decisions with hydraulic and hydrologic modeling and data. And my special focus was on urban flood risk management because it seemed like that really was a good medium between or midpoint between spatial design, water management, and the data and the modeling that I had my hand in. That all that was in the context of climate change. I was in England at the time, and just the data management and the awareness was more advanced there, I thought, than what I was used to before that. And most of my classmates actually at the time were engineers and non-American. So in addition to the technical training that I got, it was a really great lesson in just understanding different priorities, work processes, how people thought differently than me, and how to communicate. So after that, I came back to the US and I resumed back to working in real estate, commercial real estate, specifically renewable energy and water management sectors. And my focus really was to future proof the built environment, right? Again, going back to just making sure that the things that you work on stand the test of time, and doing that through solutions that maximize economic benefits, not just for now and short term, but for the future, by figuring in the socioeconomic and environmental context so that we could be protected physically and financially from the extreme disasters and what else might be brewing, right? Because
Yeah, and I think it's amazing. We've had this conversation before where look at the aquifers and all the different things that people don't talk about in the news necessarily.
yes.
And I did recently read an article about Charleston, and kind of they were trying to protect some of the land right there by the waterfront, and it takes a lot of thought. It takes a lot of consideration for not just the owners of the buildings or the community, but the environment and how that's going to play into and withstand, like you said, the test of time. I love that because we need that. And so it does ring true. You are passionate about this, that you've studied it. And, I'm really curious what keeps you up at night, right? Because there's so many different elements to this. What's the main thing that keeps you up?
Well, okay. So I think I'll just start by saying that I think there's something to be said about keeping your composure and not panicking when disaster strikes, right?
Yes.
That's a good thing. But that said, I think staying calm is different from being uninterested or unaware.
Mm, yeah.
And my concern is that the latter is the case when it comes to all these devastating disasters that we've seen have been affecting so many people in our country. And, just last week, almost 1,000 homes in Colorado burned to the ground overnight from a wildfire. And that this was in a suburban neighborhood in December, which is just unheard of. Seattle, my hometown, had 3 consecutive days of over 100-degree weather in June. June, we call it June gloom. So usually it's about 30 degrees or more lower than 100 that time of the year. And this weather is something that's happened only, like, I looked it up, and it's only happened 3 times in the last century before these 3 consecutive days. So very, very, very rare. Then in August of last year, Hurricane Ida hit the Gulf Coast, and that caused almost 100 deaths and $64.5 billion in damage. That's more than the total GDP of Costa Rica, the whole country. That's insane. And I look regularly at NOAA data. I know, don't be so excited. And the NOAA data shows that the number of extreme disasters causing over $1 billion in damage have more than doubled in the last 5 years between 2016 and 2020 to 16.2 events per year, compared to the average for the last 40 years, which was 7.1 events. So think about that. This is a trend that's recorded. This is not any kind of projection. It has nothing to do with, modeling or assuming. These are things that it's strictly based on things that have happened, that have been tracked. So going back to the built environment conversation, we're not really ready to fend off the level of risk and devastation that we've seen to be possible in real life. And this is before we account for the increase in both the frequency and the ferocity that scientists have warned that we should be expecting in the future. So I think we really have to plan and build to a different risk standard. And we cannot do that when the risk itself is treated as non existent or as one off events that do not require a strategic response. Scientists have said that what we accomplish by 2030 is going to decide what our long term future looks like for generations. And this is something that does keep me up at night.
Yes, and you've been working on it, and you've been working on it for quite some time, and I'm just glad that we do have minds like yours that have had this experience and seen different cultures and really are I guess for lack of a better word, like constantly focused on it. And so I know me and you met kind of through this water and empowering. We talk a lot about sustainability, and it's even more important today for our stakeholders. And I love that you have that financial background and business background, because that definitely plays a part in it. But when we talk about water in all of these different scenarios, it seems like it's common. It seems like it's in, how do we get water? What's the cost of water? Even you've got, flooding, and you've got a forest fire at the same time. What is your thoughts about that when we look at water?
So going back to the NOAA data that I love to look at so much, I don't love it, but I do find it to be very informative. And if you look at, so it breaks the disasters down to types, flooding, for example, or wildfires, which has to do with soil moisture level as well. When the soil's dry and the trees and the vegetation that comes out of the soil is completely dry, it turns all that into basically a tinderbox. All you need is to light a match and then it burns. So if you look at all these different types of disasters, actually, over 90%, I would say, of the disasters are water related, right? And so in my mind, extreme disasters and climate change impacts, these are water crises in my mind. And another thing that keeps me up at night is that it's not really talked about as an issue at all. It's always sort of like the cheaper stepchild or afterthought to energy issues, for example, or building issues. But really, if you think about it, I mean, on a really basic sense, I think it's 3 to 4 days that a person can survive without water. So besides air, there's really nothing else we need more for just basic survival. I mean, think about that. And so it boggles my mind that water is not taken seriously and protecting not just the quantity issues, the floods or not having a lot of it, but also the quality issues, right? Lately, we've been hearing a lot about PFAS, for example, especially in the industrial Rust Belt areas, and how actually I think it was 97% of Americans and American residents have PFAS in their bloodstreams because it's in the water. And we do not know, because it's not a regulated chemical, what the sort of tipping point is for it to be really harmful and causing cancers and all these other health risks and fatal sicknesses that some people have already experienced. So there are, I think, lots of issues associated with water that basically, if you look at any kind of environmental or built environment problem, um, there's always a water linkage because it has to be because we need it, right?
Yeah.
And
And well,
to break
go
it
ahead.
down and think about it in a more systemic, strategic manner, I think is a big homework. And to put the proper numbers to it in a way that could convince people who invest and make these high level decisions. I wish that wasn't the case. I wish that it's just the sheer fact that you die without water in 3 to 4 days would be enough, but so far in my experience it hasn't been. And that's
Yeah.
unfortunate.
Yeah, we have to tie that value to it that people can see. They can't imagine a day without water. We have that campaign or whatever, but it's until you try to turn on your water and it doesn't work. People understand that, and they are very upset when that happens to them. But it doesn't happen to the people that we need to invest, right? And so, I think that's really important that we have the conversation, and that we know that there are things to do. I'll ask you, I guess, what are some of the things that need to change?
Well,
Where do I start?
yeah, well, I think actually I would say two things. One is communication, both to raise awareness and to seek collaboration and support, which has been a big challenge. I think part of it is how the core issue, like climate change, and even pollution to a degree, which is going to affect all of us, regardless of what we believe, has become political and divisive to a point that the messenger is more important than the message itself. And I think some of the narratives could change to get more people on board. We only have 8 years until 2030 when the scientists told us is the tipping point, the deadline, and really, really don't have any time to waste on anything but action, I think. Nobody wants to feel stupid or, unaware, not knowledgeable, or to be made a villain. And I think first really productive step would be when you communicate these things, which I know a lot of people, including myself, are passionate about, showing respect and kindness, when you communicate with other people. I think that would be a really good start. Um, I think pivoting the narrative to focus on the needs and priorities of the people that you're talking to and trying to get on board could also be helpful. For example, like I cannot think of a lot of things more libertarian in value than renewable energy and energy storage, for example, because it gives you complete independence in terms of how you generate your energy. You can be completely self sufficient. You can be off the grid. You don't have to pay for anything once you have these things installed in your house or wherever you need it. But this is not the way we've been communicating, and I think that is a missed opportunity. Another thing is just the power of small daily actions, I guess I would say. And I think it also comes from just knowing, educating yourself and being interested in the connections around you, how even the smallest things that you do might affect the bigger system. You might not think that conserving water at home would actually do anything because you're just one person or one family, but actually for a lot of us to that would make a difference. You might think that not using more energy, depending on where you are, of course, as well. There's this whole thing about, there's energy conservation or energy usage, but then where is the source of your energy and how is that energy made or generated, right? And the source of it, just knowing that connection, I think, even without doing anything, is helpful because you are aware, and then you are hopefully able to and willing to communicate that with other people that you know. But also just doing your part in conserving, recycling, reusing, not being wasteful. That saves you money as well, which is good. I mean, I think there are so many things that you could do on an individual level to chip in. And I really do not think that that is a small thing or negligible thing that we shouldn't be talking about.
Yeah, I think it's important, and I think the education is important. So just the understanding, and you have to research that yourself. You have to dig in and learn it for yourself, and not wait for somebody to tell you their perspective. You kind of go in and do the research so you know yourself. I love talking to people kind of about the energy savings, and when's the last time you really even read your power bill, or how do you consume energy? Do you even know that? So those are really great tips just in general. And we'll continue to share on the communication side that as much as we can, because I do think it's important. We have talked about PFAS and PFAS and PTFE and those things on the podcast. So you'll have to take a listen to those coming up in the new year as well. So with that and kind of where you are, and do you have like a certain call or anything else that you'd like to share with our audience?
So let's see. Well, sustainability is about taking what you need without harming the livelihoods of future generations, right? That's the sort of the textbook definition. And that does include safeguarding your own livelihoods. And I think that built environment professionals, but also users of the built environment, which is everybody, they're a really big responsibility, as well as an amazing opportunity when it comes to, promoting and integrating sustainability into everyday lives that we live. Like I said, we have 8 years to go. There are lots of somewhat frightening things that have been happening in real life. And there are lots of things also that we could do to protect ourselves. And I guess my call for action would be to pay attention and just acknowledge that there are issues to be dealt with and that there are knowledge, technology, resources available to deal with these issues. What we're missing right now is a sense of urgency to act.
I love that. Okay. So if people are ready to act and they want to reach out to you, how should they get in contact with you?
Great. That would be great. I have a website. They can feel free to actually email me. I check and respond to all my emails. It is hyon@rah.solutions. They can also check out my website. I'm on LinkedIn. They can feel free to connect with me there. So yes, I would be happy to connect with your audiences and chat.
Thank you. Well, we're excited to have you as a resource, and we'll definitely put all of those links in the show notes so people can easily contact you. And I look forward to seeing what you do next. We'll continue this conversation with you on our side through Empowering Pumps and Equipment. And just, I can't wait to see, what is next, what projects you're working on, and kind of hear from you later. So thanks for being here with me today and sharing your passion for sustainability, and definitely in this water reuse. I know that's also a part of what we're talking about. So, but understanding the entire environment, I think, is so important in our communities and the technologies that are out there because we have them. So let's put our heads together, right? Okay. Well, thank you for being here, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for having me.
And we're back. Charli, thank you so much for arranging the interview. Hyon Rah, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your knowledge with us. Just a couple of things that stood out to me. Hearing someone proactively talk about what we need to do for these disastrous weather events that are predicted to be even more, that we've seen more of them in the past few years, how we can address those preemptively, I think is highly important. And hearing someone talk about that before we get there. It's something that right now Texas is freezing again. So we're talking about, how we avoid and things we can do to help avoid these weather disaster or damages from the weather disasters. And then one big thing that stuck out to me was, our very first episode when we came back that you had with the WEF president, you really talked about the importance of telling our story and why water is important. And when you hear Hyon talk, you just hear the passion and the pain in her voice as she just talks about how important water is and how you can't live without water and how it baffles her that people don't care about it that much because it's just so readily available. We need those kind of people telling our story and relaying that information. And I'm so happy that you had her on so we can highlight her story to our audience.
Yeah. And you know me, I like to be positive, but some of
Yeah.
these things aren't positive. These are negative things that have happened, but there is a positive aspect to this. And it is there are solutions out there. If we will pay attention, we'll work with our leaders, we have the conversation. That's the only way that we can really get in front of this, literally in front of the storms, to be prepared and, make sure we have what we need and really consider all aspects when we build new things on how this is going to affect it. Are we building a sustainable future? Currently, no. In the future, you're right. Hopefully, this is what we're going to be stressing to people, that we do need to focus on this. This is important. So, wonderful conversation that we've had today.
For sure. And definitely connect with her on social so that you can, if you have any follow-up questions for her or want to talk about this planning with her, she's a wonderful person to add to your contact list of people to stay in touch with.
Absolutely. And this brings us to the end of our show. Thanks for listening. I hope you will get with us as part of the Sustainability Summit. We look forward to seeing you and hearing from you. Okay.
Yep. Do us a favor, subscribe, rate and review. We have these podcasts. They come out every Monday. So you can hear Charli and myself talk about all these fun things every Monday. And you can go back to the archives and look for any interviews that might resonate with where you are and things you want to learn. They're evergreen. Might hear us talk about TikTok or something, but it's fun.
And you know what? I think that you should just binge the podcast. I mean, I think it's a wonderful thing when you're like, okay, I'm going to clean the house today or whatever it is, where you just need some education while you're doing something that you feel maybe, this is not fun. Okay, so we'll make it fun for you, and you make it fun for us by mentioning us at Empowering Pumps or using the hashtag Empowering Industry Podcast. We check it. I love to check it because we see all the different mentions that we've had. And so email us at podcast@empoweringpumps.com if you want to be on the show or you have a guest that you would like to see on our show. Let us know about it.
And we'll be back every Monday with a new episode.
So until then, be empowering. My day is better now. It's because of you.